Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another practice session for centering prayer and heartful meditation. So, this morning I have a subject that rarely gets covered, but definitely needs to. So, mindfulness practice has so many benefits, and anybody who's a practitioner of mindfulness practice knows that there are lots of benefits to it. But there are rarely mentioned dangers that definitely need to be spoken of more often, especially for people with a history of mental illness or trauma. A problem with mindfulness practice is that some people are suffering trauma some people suffering trauma have a difficult time maintaining the non-judgmental state while in complete awareness of their inner thoughts, emotions, and experiences on that moment-to-moment basis. So they're in the mindful state, and all these things arise inside them, and they can't remain not judgmental. They can't just be the witness because of the power of the trauma. The emotional state is too overwhelming. Think about it for a moment. Think about the worst trauma you ever had. And has that ever arisen for you in your meditation while you're doing mindfulness? It's difficult for some people, not for everybody. But teachers seldom mention this, and myself, I'm included. So I wanted to touch on this today. I'm going to read you something here. The mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy implementation resources lists the potential kinds of risks of mindfulness participation, including, and here they are, increased likelihood, this is for some people, not for everybody, increased likelihood of suicidality, depression, negative emotions, and flashbacks during meditation for individuals with serious trauma history. And those emotions can be overwhelming. Depression, suicidality. Whew, that's a pretty heavy load to carry inside yourself. And if you can't maintain that witness perspective, that observational, not judgmental perspective, well, those overwhelming emotions can cause super serious problems for people. Maintaining a non-judgmental state of mind regarding powerful emotions associated with trauma can be difficult and dangerous for some individuals, and it just needs to be said. That's all. Now, there is a difference in what we practice here at Centering Prayer. The Yoga Sutras, right here, teach that a one-pointed meditation, such as in our case, Centering Prayer, is the ability to focus on a single idea rather than observing or witnessing the arising actions, stories, and emotions inside your mind. That also happens, but it's not the focus of it. Making your mind into a single point of silence it's entirely different. And yet, strangely, oddly, it also brings mindfulness into daily life. When then, as a practice of meditation increases, of centering prayer, of learning to see the silence within, one sees one's emotional state during the day because one knows silence, because it creates a witnessing situation. And knowing silence, one learns that one isn't one's body or one's mind, and thus understands that one isn't just one's history. One is the higher self. One is the consciousness. It focuses less on the world and more on the divine. Single-minded focus is the avenue into silence, but it's also the avenue into heartfulness and mindfulness. I'm all for facing one's trauma. I've done so myself. I've been in therapy, and that's helped me. I've gone back to the place where I died, which helped me immensely overcome the night of the 12 hours or so of desperate trauma that I suffered. Had I not done that, I'd still be crying every single time I told my story. So I'm all for facing one's trauma and working it through, facing one's dark side. All I'm talking about this morning is that there's a danger to just mindfulness meditation that we don't talk about very often. And that's the arising of emotional histories over which we have no control, which actually may end up controlling us, creating, as it was noted in that study in 2012, potential for suicidality among some people. But instead of aiming at my inner life and my mortal self and just mindfulness, single mindedness, single pointed mindedness, and this is, and I'm gonna whip this open here, and so that you know where it is in this book, in the Yoga Sutras. You can look it up yourself. It's book one, number 32. The practice of concentration on a single subject, or the use of one technique, a single subject, is the best way to present. I'm sorry, take that again. The practice of concentration on a single subject is the best way to prevent the obstacles and their accomplishments. Single mindedness. Jesus also, he talks about single mindedness. So Panagore talks about it, and Jesus talks about it. Make your eye single, make your mind single, and your body will be filled with light. And the crazy thing about single minded practice, which is what centering prayer is, it's a single minded practice. It's pointing your mind at one thing, is that in the silence itself, one develops the capacity for non-judgmental reflection on the arising emotional states. So it's not just looking at the arising emotional states. It's aiming your mind at a single point, and as those emotional states arise, from that place, from the single-minded point, one can then see one's traumas and learn to be non-attached. It's a different sort of technique. Anyway, I wanted to touch on that today. Um, Please reference your book in the notes. Yes, I'll grab this here and put this right here. Copy before we begin our practice. Where'd y'all go? There you are. This is where this is from. And if I can grab this too, hold on a second here. This is what brought it to mind this morning. Copy. I'm going to drop in also this article from Psychology Today that brought this all to mind this morning as I was doing my morning reading. I read a lot of the Psychology Today stuff because they cover a lot of important aspects of what it is to be a human being. But when they brought up mindfulness this morning, I thought to myself, oh, yeah. I've been meaning to talk about this for a long time. So, travel to inner space brings up the shadow self. We need to weed out the thorns. Definitely. We definitely need to travel in inner space and to weed out the thorns. The problem is that some people have a greater capacity for that than others, and that trauma can overpower us. So mindfulness practice is excellent. It has a bazillion benefits, but we do need to mention the downside. You have to be fair and to be truthful. The practice that I happen to the technique I happen to practice comes from the Yoga Sutras and the centering prayer practice of single-mindedness, which allows for me to experience the emotions as they arise, but also trains me into the non-judgmental aspect of through the practice of silence. And silence shows me who I actually am. Anyway, I hope that helps, my friends. Trauma overpowered you for 52 years. It's totally powerful. It can completely do that. The trauma of me too. I was in your boat. The whole dying thing was awful. And the car wreck afterwards, it left me a wreck, gave me a stutter, ruined me for the longest time. And until I began to face it and be freed from my trauma, it had power over me. Still has a little power over me, truthfully. Sometimes I still weep when I tell my story, but a whole lot less. A whole lot less. So all my point is this morning is that mindfulness practice has a downside that needs to be brought up. It doesn't make it bad, doesn't make it wrong. It just needs to be talked about. That's all I'm saying this morning. So I do find that the single-minded practice, like Kristen says right there, protects me. It protects me from myself. It protects me from the other things that other entities that would want to harm me. Anyway, okay. Good morning, everyone. Need to start this at the beginning. Sounds important to understand. Namaste. All right. Let's jump into some meditation here. We're already 10 or 12 minutes into this, and I try to keep it to a half hour. Where the heck is my mask? I don't know. There it is. Okay. I try to keep my desk as neat as I can, but sometimes. So, like the video if you like the video. I'd appreciate that. Let's spend a little time. We usually jump in with a couple of ohms, 3 ohms or so. I was talking about pranayama the other day and moving the life force inside yourself to drive it and then relax it and let it flow. And then we're going to do our regular centering prayer practice, which is a repetitive chant that makes your mind single, that makes your I single. And then, as Jesus says, your body's filled with light. Thanks for liking the video. I super appreciate it. I'm going to put on my mask and I'll see you in 20 minutes or so. We'll begin with maybe 3 or 5 ohms. We'll see how that goes. Set the timer, feet on the floor, hands on my lap, relaxing, pulling my mic in. Belly breaths. Relax your body. Breathing from your third eye down to your sacral chakra this morning. Just below your belly button. Relax. Focus. Hello, everyone. Time to open your eyes. As Karen Elise wrote, meditation brought up the trauma to be healed. That's true for most people. That helped me too. Meditation brought up my anger that I had after my near death experience, and it cleared it away like divine psychotherapy. But it was single minded meditation in my case. Mindfulness is a good practice for 99, I guess, some large percentage of the people. But for a small percentage, it can be trouble. It's worth mentioning. Thanks for being here this morning. You're welcome, Susie. So glad that your meditation was powerful today, Sheila. Mine too. There's power in group meditation. That's why we meditate together, because it magnifies among us. It is as Jesus said, where two or three are gathered, I am there. I say that over and over again because it's true. I think one of the differences between mindfulness meditation and single-minded meditation is that mindfulness tends to focus on the world and single-mindedness tends to focus on heaven. With that said, thanks for being here this morning. I'm so glad you all came. I'll see you on Sunday at Not Church. Peace and love, everybody. Thanks for liking the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for the chat this morning, too. Peace and love, everyone. I'll see you soon. Thank you, Kristen, for the super chat this morning. You're so faithful with that. I super appreciate it because it helps me be here. Thank you. Peace and love, everyone. Thanks for the likes. Love you all. Peace.